Okay, how are you guys doing? I got to tell you, when Audrey reached out to me and she was like, "Hey, our team's having this potluck," I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited! I love potlucks. I know what I want to bring. I am so excited to be there with all of you guys." And then she said, "And we just want you to record a video." It was a little bit of a letdown. I was looking forward to the potluck, but regardless, I would have totally jumped on a plane and come out had I been invited to the actual potluck itself. I would have been there. I want you guys to know that. But no, I'm actually, all kidding aside, excited to be here with you guys for just a second. I'm at my house right now. I snuck down into my basement, which is why all the equipment and gears are down here, because my kids just got home from school. My wife and I are going on a little afternoon date because we have some evening commitments with the kids, and I've been on the road a little bit, so we haven't been able to have a date, and so we're going to head out. So I snuck home for that, and I'm hiding down here. Hopefully it'll stay quiet. But I wanted to share a few things with you to take advantage of the fact that you guys are all kind of meeting and coming together. And Audrey was kind enough to give me a platform here to share a few thoughts, because you guys know how much I respect and I admire you guys, how much I look up to this team, how much I'm grateful to be associated with you guys. And how much I respect you. And I know that there's ups and downs in business. There's ups and downs in things, and you're getting to the time of year when you can get fatigued, you can get tired. I know that some people have made decisions that aren't exactly what I think in the long run will be smart for them. I wish them the best in what they do, but I think they're really going to rue the day when they made the decision to walk down a different path, because I want you guys to know how much I believe in where we're going and what we're doing. I want you to know how much I know. I mean, the conversations that we're having behind the scenes right now, those of you that are able to go to leadership will get some of those pieces that are coming into play. I think what will happen, they're going to write books or stories or case studies about Team Beachbody in this time of our business right now. They're going to talk about it. We are going to look at this 2-3 years from now and look back on this time and see how transformative and how transitional this was in a lot of ways for the company itself, as we move into what the company was built on, right? DVDs onto this digital platform, and figuring out how to make that work, and how to make that work in the constructs of what we do in our coaching environment. All of those pieces, the product strategies and the different pieces that have to line up, and it's really hard if you're not careful to slip into playing defense and to slip thinking that way. And so I know where we're going. I know what we're doing. I'm here for a reason. I believe in where we're going. I am extremely excited about that. And I wish I could share more details with you, but you're just going to have to trust me on that. But it is. We are on the right place. We're doing the right thing. And the path is right. And I want you to know that. I want you to believe in that. Because typically at this time of year, especially, whether it's been a frustrating year or even a good year, in the 3 years that I've been with Team Beachbody, October, November, December always sounds the same. People struggle to have interests in doing their, in health and fitness. We're typically in the holidays. We're stuffing our pie hole full of candy and other stuff that we probably shouldn't. Other people aren't used to thinking about that. It's close enough to New Year's that now they have a good reason to procrastinate a few months because, hey, I'll just do it in January, right? And all those things come together that make the work of a coach a little bit more difficult this time of the year. All right, and you couple that with the fact that as you near the end of the year, you're getting at this point when maybe you started the year with a certain set of goals, and you're looking at, I don't know if I'm going to be able to reach those right now, and so I'm fatigued, I'm tired, or maybe I'm emotionally spent, and all that stuff. And I get all that, you guys. I totally get all that. And if I was just concerned about you liking me, I would tell you that I would tell you what you want to hear, which is that it's not a big deal. You'll be all right. Just don't. This is something that it never happened. Don't worry about it. It's just this one time. But I'm not that kind of guy. I'm your friend, and I'm your partner, and I'm gonna tell you how it is. And how it is this: sometimes if you're gonna own something, you've got to own all of it. You can't just own a la carte pieces, the fun stuff, the good stuff, the positive stuff. You got to own the good with the bad, the ups and the downs. That's part of owning something. You got to own all of it. You got to own October, November, December. You got to own transitions. You got to own those pieces. Why? Because you also want to own the wins. When as these things start to turn, as we are back into double-digit growth, as markets are opening in international countries, new consumer product lines are coming into play, new features into bot are coming into play that make it easier to sell and retain people, to ladder things up, that drive greater volume in your businesses. As all of these things start to come, and everyone's going to want to be a part of that growth and that excitement, but you don't just get to pick and choose what you want to own. If you're going to own it, you got to own all of it. And I know that you guys get that. I know you guys know that, but I just want to remind you of that. Okay, I want to remind you of that. Last night, right? This is my one of my favorite times of year in terms of watching sports. I don't usually watch a ton of sports anymore, but I like to watch the baseball playoffs. And I know this is probably going to upset some of you. I know for sure Alex is going to be mad at me, but I'm a Yankees fan. And so it was fun for me to watch them come back against the Indians and win and sit there and watch that. It's been a lot of baseball has been on my mind. And so I was thinking what I want to share with you guys. I'm going to share two things with you if I can, but I'm going to theme them around baseball because you guys know I like to tell stories. The first one I want to talk about, if you heard me speak it at the leadership workshop at Summit, this is going to sound very familiar to you. But I want to talk about having a hitter's mindset. Because I believe that one of the things that a coach has to develop, that any entrepreneur has to honestly develop, is what I call, again, this hitter's mindset. And I call it that for this reason. I have had the opportunity the last couple of years to coach my Little League, my son's Little League baseball team, okay? And both when he was 10 and now last year when he was 11 years old. And as the coach of that team, I know that my job is pretty simple. I got to teach him, of course, the fundamentals of baseball, right? Fielding, catching, throwing, hitting, just all the fundamentals of the skills of the game. But I also have to teach him the mental side of the game. Because like a lot of sports, baseball is a very mental, you have to be mentally tough to be successful. When I say mentally tough, that's my dad's word. If I were to use my word, I'd say you have to be mentally disciplined. And in no way, in no part of the sport is this more easily seen than when it comes to hitting. Let me explain what I mean. So I would take my kids out and we would go have practice, right? And when the time would come to have hitting practice, batting practice, right, during our time together during the practice, I would take my hat off and I would set it in the middle of center field. And I would tell them when they're up there hitting, I would say, look, anyone who can hit a ball past my hat gets a candy bar, okay? Probably shouldn't say that on a Beachbody call, but I did give them candy bars, just the little ones, both for their health and also because I'm cheap, right? But I just give them the little ones. But this is what would happen. They would get up there and I would pitch to them. And as they're sitting there looking to hit, you can see in what they're doing that they have one thought on their mind, which is hit the ball. Hit the ball as hard as I can. I want to hit it past that hat. And so when the ball comes, they're swinging really hard. They're not up there thinking, is it a ball or a strike? Is it going to be, am I going to swing and miss or swing and hit? They're not thinking, am I going to get hit? They're not thinking any of that. They're just sitting there anxious for the ball to come so they can hit it and get that candy bar, all right? And what I point out to them is that's a hitter's mindset because you're focusing on what you want to have happen. Your mind is focused on the things that you want to have happen for yourself. And when you do that, your execution changes. You come at your decisions, your swing, how you look at it from a place of belief. And that matters. You can see the difference when it comes to game time. For a lot of these kids, hitting in a game is very different than hitting in practice. They get up to that plate and they're standing there and it feels the same to them. They feel like they're doing the same thing they were in practice. But the difference is right here. They're focusing on what they don't want to have happen now. Oh my gosh, I don't want to strike out. I don't want to swing and miss. Is this going to be a ball or a strike? I don't want to swing if it's a ball, and I don't want to not swing if it's a strike. And they start focusing on the things that they don't want, and they come at their decision-making instead of from a place of belief. They come at it from a place of fear. And again, to them, it looks the same. It feels the same, but it's not. It's totally different. They've lost that hitter's mindset. And one of the best things that I try to tell them to do is when they're up there, I say, look, I want you to have one thought in your, basically, this is the thought I want you to have in your head. Okay? I'm looking at that pitch, and the second I've decided that I can hit it, I'm going to swing hard. It's not balls or strikes. It's can I hit it, and then I'm just going to swing hard. Because I'm more interested in them developing a hitter's mindset, coming at their decisions from a place of belief, right, than fear. Oftentimes, when I'm, again, trying to coach these kids, it's a difficult concept at this young age, but I'll tell you what I tell them because I'm going to tell you the same thing. When you have a hitter's mindset, you're playing to win. When you don't have a hitter's mindset, you're playing not to lose. And those might sound like the same thing, but they're not. They're very, very different. It can feel the same. In your business, it can feel the same. Maybe I'm still doing invites. Maybe I'm still talking to people. Maybe I'm doing this. But if I'm coming at my business from a place of fear, of hesitation, if I'm coming at my business focused on the things that I don't want to have happen, I'm playing not to lose instead of playing to win. People pick up on that. And what they interpret as being is a lack of commitment, a lack of passion, a lack of belief, a lack of credibility. They perceive that, and you make your job 10 times harder than it needs to be. In fact, my experience has been that for a lot of people, when it comes to these phases of their business, they become, if they're not careful, their own worst enemy in their business, because what they're projecting is not helping them. How do we change that? Well, we become conscious of what we're focusing on. We look at our business and we say, what are the narratives that we're telling ourselves right now? What are the things that I'm constantly talking about and focusing on about my business? Am I focusing on opportunities? Am I focusing on the things that I can do? Am I living in the present? Or am I coming at it from a place of belief? Or am I focusing on what I don't want to have happen? Am I playing not to lose? Am I being defensive in nature? Am I being overly reactive? Okay. And then we start to apply our God-given gift of choice to that. And we start playing to win. We change what we allow ourselves to think about and where we choose to put our focus and our time and our effort. It doesn't mean we're ignorant of the things that are struggles for us. No, it doesn't mean that. But what it means is we're choosing to focus on the positive things. We're choosing to focus on the proactive things. We're choosing to stop comparing ourselves to other people, to different time periods. Oh yeah, but last year it was this, or this was this, and this person used to be with me, but that's all comparison. And comparison is a complete waste of time. No one wins. Nothing good comes out of that. So drop it. So stop doing it. What do you got right now? It doesn't. The biggest thing should be, what do I want? Why do I want it? And what am I doing right now to go get it? And when you start living like that, when you start coming at these things from a place of belief, when you start disciplining your mind, you watch, and I promise you, you watch what happens. You watch the change. You take that purpose and you endow every one of your actions with that purpose. 3 to 5 new additions to your network every single day. 3 to 5 new conversations every single day. 3 to 5 invites every single day. 3 to 5 follow-ups every single day. The check-ins that you do, all that kind of stuff, all that stuff. You need to look at that and go, these things are helping me get where I want to go. Because they are. Any step down the path that you're taking as a coach is getting you closer to where you want to go. And that is a beautiful thing. And sure, some people might step off the path. My belief is they'll come to regret it. I have seen that happen time and time again. And you know what? I hope they'll come back. I hope that they will know that we love them so much that they're always welcome back. And we're not going to say, we told you so. We're not going to do any of that stuff. So they can go play games and chase money and, do these things that they do with, front-end loaded game, all that kind of stuff, okay? And that's fine. They got to walk that path and learn it for themselves. You're not going to do that. I wouldn't do that. I've seen that happen. I know where that goes. I know how that ends, okay? And we can have a whole other conversation on that if you want to. But there's a reason why I'm here, okay? I get hit up from time to time with headhunters. I'm here. I choose to be here because I love where we're going. I love what we're doing, and I believe in it wholeheartedly, you guys, okay? You've got to be that same way. You've got to own that vision for your business yourself. No one else can. It's got to be you, okay? And owning it, like I said at the beginning, is owning all of it. Owning all of it. There's a story in my life that I go back to, an experience that I had that helps me remember that. It was kind of a pivotal moment for me when I look back, an experience that I had with my dad. And I want to leave this story with you, with that idea of having a hitter's mindset and owning everything. And hopefully this will help you do this. And my invitation to you will be, after this video, sometime during your potluck, between forkfuls of whatever you're eating, okay, that you can talk about developing that hitter's mindset, strengthen and maintain that hitter's mindset. You can talk about owning everything. You can hopefully maybe remember this story that I'll tell you, so that it will, when you feel yourself veering off, it'll help you get yourself right again, because I know that's what it's done for me. So growing up, in my family, athletics was always fairly important, right? I remember growing up to stories of my grandpa, and how he was this multi-sport letterman at his high school up in Idaho. And my mom and dad would show me pictures of my grandpa, and he and his four buddies, they called them the Fabulous Five, and they were all these sepia black and white pictures of them with their Letterman sweaters on, right? They used to be sweaters and had their Lettermans. In fact, my grandpa, still to this day up in his high school in Idaho, and he just passed away a couple years ago, but they still have his picture there for the state records that some of them he still holds, all right, all these years later. And so I grew up with these stories. I grew up seeing my grandpa's pictures and these Letterman's jackets. And then my dad was an all-state linebacker in high school in Southern California, which isn't easy to do in Southern California. There's a lot of competition. And I remember him, hearing stories about that, what that was like for him. And my dad actually threw away his Letterman's jacket, but he kept the letter. And I remember as a little kid, just being completely mesmerized with that letter. And I just kind of rubbing my fingers over the little texture of the threads that was on it, and thinking how cool it was, how cool that Letterman's was. So I'm going to share my screen here real quick. And so for me, as I was, this isn't the one I'm looking to share. Let me go this way. Hold on. Let me share. Hold on here. Let's just make it a little bit easier. I can do this one. There we go. Okay. So for me, as I was growing up, a Letterman's jacket, okay, became, let me just kind of put this right here. There we go. Okay. So for me, a Letterman's jacket started to really symbolize this athletic achievement, this accomplishment. In other words, it represented for me being a Carver. And I wanted one. Like I remember going to bed at night, and I would think about it. And the one sport that I was decent at growing up was baseball. I wasn't good. I was okay at other sports, but for some reason, baseball, I just kind of got that sport. I was naturally good at it. And I would go to bed at night, and while some people would count sheep, I would sit there and imagine myself hitting fastballs. And I would count fastballs. That's how I would, instead of counting sheep, I counted hitting fastballs. And baseball really was how I was going to get this Letterman's jacket. It just, in my mind, that's just how it was going to work out. And so we as time went on, I continued to play baseball. We ended up moving to Utah from Arizona right before I turned 13 years old, and right around I was 13 years old. And the move from Arizona, my dad was trying to time the move from Arizona to Utah so that we would get here before baseball season started. Okay, because he knew it was that important to me. He knew that it was really kind of a part of who I was. It was my identity. I consider myself a ball player. I always wore baseball hats. I talked about baseball. I watched baseball. And so they were trying to time it. Now, this was before the internet. And so you couldn't just get on Google and look up, when the season started here in Utah. And so they drove up, and one of the first things they did after they got here was they went to the local city and they asked when the baseball season started. And they found out that the season had literally just started the week before. And in Arizona, they started the season later in the year because it's so hot down there. But in Utah, they started it a little bit earlier because they had to beat the snow coming. And so my dad kind of frantically was like, oh my gosh, okay, we got to get him on a team. And there was one team that had room, and he just put me on that team. Okay. Let me show you a picture of that. Okay. So this was me on the Reds right there on the right. That was a picture of that first team that I was on. And one of the things we found out, so I started off on that team, and no one knew me, so I kind of rode the bench a little bit, and which was hard for me because I played baseball. This is what I did. I succeeded at this. And as the season started to go on, I started to get more of a name for myself, and I was starting to start, and then I became coach, realized that what I could do, and I got to be one of the better players on this team, and pretty soon kind of like one of the feature player on this team within about 4 or 5 games. And it was during this course of time that we found out that in the city that we had moved into, there were 2 high schools. One that was on the west side of the city and one that was on the east side. And right down the middle of the city was this main street. They called it State Street. And if you lived on whichever side of this State Street you lived on dictated which high school you went to. Well, we had moved into the west side, which meant I was supposed to go to this high school. But the only team that had spots for me in this city league was on the east side. So I was playing on the east side. And while that might not sound like a big deal, and maybe it's not the case where you're at, baseball, at least for us growing up, there was some politics that were involved. And because I was playing on the east side, I didn't get to know anyone on the west side. The coaches really didn't get to see me play. They saw me play when I made the All-Star team. It's there in the blue picture right there. I made the All-Star team that year. And they saw me play a little bit there, but they didn't really know who I was. They didn't really I didn't get a name for myself, all those kind of things that kind of happened over that year. And so after that season happened, even though that I had made the All-Star team and I was kind of like, doing my thing when it came to baseball, going into my 9th grade year as a freshman, my dad and I were really nervous because on this west side, no one really knew me. And so my dad and I, when as tryouts neared for the freshman baseball team, we formulated a plan, what we needed to do. And the plan was real simple, that during the tryout, I would go and I would make sure that I introduced myself to the coach. And that I would always, whenever I saw the coach or assistant coach, I would make sure I said my name because they needed to know my name. That was step 1, my name. Step 2 was what my dad always said, heart and effort. Heart and effort. And heart and effort meant really simple, you never walk. You always run. When the coach asks a question, you answer the question, right? You don't sit down. You cheer for your teammates. Heart and effort, heart and effort, heart and effort. That was part 2, is show heart and effort. Part 3 was do well, have a good tryout. And I was nervous, but the day of tryouts came, and I went up there, and I saw the head coach, and I went over to him, and I'm like, hey, coach, how you doing? My name's Kim Carver. We moved into just last year, but we moved in over here, but I had to play on the east side, so I don't know if you want to know me, but I just want to introduce myself. I'm really excited to be here, and I just rambled. I don't know. Remember what I said? I just remember saying my name like 3 times to the poor guy, and say goodbye, and then I went out, and then it was heart and effort. And the coach, that first day of tryouts, if it was like, okay, guys, hey, we need to go over there and do this, everyone else kind of stood up and kind of like, I stood up and like wind sprinted over there. And I was running everywhere you went running. Every time I passed one of the coaches, hey, coaches, hey, coach, hey, Kim Carver, I just mentioned my name. I must have sounded like a complete idiot to these guys. Guys, every time I saw them, like, hey, Kim Carver, hey, my name's Kim. I just said all of them because that's what my dad said the plan was, right? That heart and effort, I'm doing that. And then that first day of tryouts was fielding, and I played first base, and they lined us up at first base, and we got ground balls, and I got a couple really good ground balls. They had us throw across the diamond from first base to third to see our arm strength, and I made a good throw to third base. They had us kind of look at our footwork when you play first base, so you can kind of stretch out and catch balls, and I want to see how you did that. And then they had us try to pick, like if it was a short hop, you had to pick it up out of the dirt, like catch it out of the dirt. And that was something I really sucked at, but even that day I went out and I actually scooped a couple out of the dirt and had a really, really good tryout, right? And so I went home that night, was feeling pretty good. My dad came home from work, walks in the door. I'm sitting there waiting for him at the kitchen table. He says, how did it go? I said, Dad, it went really well. I said, I introduced myself to the coach. I talked to him. I said, every time I ran by him, I told him my name. They heard my name. Every coach, I said it every single time. And I had a really good tryout, Dad. I didn't miss any ground balls. I had some good throws across to third base. I even scooped one out of the dirt, which he was surprised because, again, I'm not very good at that. And had a really good tryout and was feeling pretty good. And so we kind of went to bed feeling okay about things. And the way the tryouts worked was there were three 3 days. If you made the first day, okay, after the first day, you went to the coach's office the next morning. If your name was on the piece of paper that was posted on his door, you made the cut to go to the second day tryouts. So that next morning, I got up, went to school, went to the coach's office, saw the paper on his door, went my finger down, saw my name. I had made it through the first cut. Awesome. So that next afternoon again, second day of tryouts, today is all about hitting. Same thing as the day before. And again, I must sound like a complete idiot to these guys. Hey, Coach, how you doing? Kim Carver here. Hey, Coach Kim. Hey, it's Kim. My name's Kim Carver. I must have told her my name. Again, was an idiot. And I'm just running everywhere. I'm not walking. I am not walking anywhere. Heart and effort. Running around, saying my name all the time. Today they probably would have thought I had ADD or something like that just because I was just so hyper. But I was doing everything I could to show them that I wanted to be on the team. To overcome the deficiency that not being known or not having established a reputation for myself might have put against me. Well, that day was hitting, and the first thing they had you do is the group that I was with, at least they'd broken us up, was hit off a tee. And so I went over there and I was hitting off this tee, and one of the assistant coaches was there, and he made the comment to me that I had excellent bat speed. And I felt really good about that. And I've always been told that I have a good swing. And hitting was always something that I did really well. That's why they put me at first base, because while I was slow, they put the slow guys who can hit at first base, and that's where they put me. And so hitting was a strength of mine. Cycled through to the batting cage. And I was in there hitting off pitching, and the head coach happened to walk by, and he stopped, and he watched me hit. And he made the comment, hey, you've got a really good swing. I said, thanks, Coach. Kim Carver. My name's Kim. Just slipping it in there any chance I get. And he made that comment to me. And so had a good day, okay? Had a good day doing other drills and stuff with hitting, and went home that night. My dad got home from work, came in. I was waiting for him at the kitchen table, as kind of was the custom. And he said, how'd it go? I said, Dad, I think it went really well. I said, I talked to the coaches. I talked to all the coaches. I made sure I said my name every time I talked to them, even though at this point I was starting to clue in that was weird. I ran everywhere, Dad. I hustled every place I went. When other people were walking at this point, I was running. And then I had a good day. The coach said that I had a really good bat speed. And the head coach even stopped and saw me hitting and said I had a really good swing. And honestly, if I'm honest with you guys, at that point I was like, I got this in the bag. Like, I got this in the bag. I'm feeling really good because I don't fail at baseball. This is part of who I am, right? It's like having my right arm. It's just what I do. It's who I am. And so I woke up that next day, and there was one more day of tryouts before they posted the final cuts. I went to the coach's office. I went, saw the piece of paper, saw my name. I had made it through that second cut to the last day of tryouts. And that afternoon we went out, and the thing we did that day was a scrimmage. They basically split everyone up, and everybody played 2 innings in the field defensively, and they got 1 at bat. And I remember talking to my dad about that the night before, and he was so funny. I'll never forget this. He told me that even though I was only playing 2 innings, which means I was not going to be playing a lot. I was going to be sitting around. He said, don't sit around. He told me, he says, do not sit on the bench. Do not sit down when you're in the dugout. Stand up, be on the fence, hold the fence, cheer for your team. He said, the bench is death. I'll never forget him saying that. The bench is death. Don't sit down. Stay away from that. Stand up and cheer. So the whole time when I'm not playing, I'm up there, yeah, cheer, way to go. And I'm on the yelling, constantly talking, chasing a foul ball, heart and effort, Kim. And I played 2 innings in the field. I had 1 ball hit to me that I fielded cleanly. I had a couple balls thrown to me for outs that weren't that big of a deal. In my 1 at bat, okay, first pitch was a ball, second pitch was a strike, third pitch I hit this, it was a little bit outside, and so I hit this line drive to right field, hit a double. My only at bat, line drive, bam, to right field, double. And I went home that night, and I was just like, I was assured that this was going to happen. This was supposed to happen. It was inevitable for me. This is how I was going to get my Letterman's jacket. This was how everything was lining up how it was supposed to be. My dad came in. I think he could tell. He saw me how to go. I said, Dad, it was so good. And I told him how I didn't sit on the bench because that was death. And I stood up and I cheered and I chased foul balls and I said my name again to every coach that I saw. And when I got up to hit, I hit a line drive to right field, but I ran a double. It was a great hit. You know, coaches saying positive things, people saying positive things, and me just feeling like I've got this. This is just what I do, right? This has been the path to that Letterman's jacket, to being a Carver, part of this fraternity that this is what I've got. It sounds so silly to me now as a 42-year-old man. But I remember how important it was to me back then. How much it was my identity and what I did. So that night I went to bed, dreamed about hitting fastballs, and I woke up the next morning and went to the coach's office. And I saw that sheet of paper. And I remember I went down the list and I didn't see my name. And I looked again because this is the list. If you're on this list, you're on the team. You're on that freshman team. So I'm going down that list and I don't see my name again. And I remember I even took a piece of paper out of my backpack and put it on there. It went down line by line because I thought for sure I was just missing my name. But it wasn't on there. I'd been cut. And I was devastated. I can still feel in my heart how it felt. It felt like I had lost a key part of who I was. And I walked around school the rest of the day, and kids were asking me if I'd made the team, and I was saying things like, I don't really care. I didn't really want to make it anyway, and all those things you say to kind of deflect pain, but inside I was breaking. Inside I was dying. I just wanted to get out of there. I didn't want to be at school. I didn't want to talk to people. I didn't want to have people ask me that question anymore. I didn't want to face it, and I didn't know what that meant for me. I thought it was over. No more baseball. I was, in my mind at that time, it was done. No baseball, no Letterman's jacket, nothing. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a hobo. I'm going to go live in the mountains with the goats. I don't know what I'm going to do because I don't have baseball anymore. I was going so extreme, and I got myself the whole day just holding back this emotion. And when I got home finally, and again, this is before cell phones, so I couldn't call my mom or my dad and tell them. Walk in the house, my mom's there. How'd it go, Kim? And I just started crying. What happened? I got cut, Mom. You got cut? What do you mean? I don't know, Mom, I got cut. Well, what do you mean? I said, Mom, I don't know. I got cut. And then my mom tried to do what moms do. She wanted to just love on me and reassure me and help me have some perspective. And so she was saying things like, it's okay, it's just baseball. And I'm like, Mom, it's not just baseball. You don't understand. And it's okay, you can try again next year. Mom, you don't get it. It's like I'm done now. I'm not on this team. I'm never going to be able to do it. Blah, 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 blah. And I had just given up on that. And she tried to reassure me, and I lashed out at her, and I apologized later for it because sometimes I don't know why we do that to our moms, right, when they're just trying to help, but I did as a dumb teenager. And I went down to my room, and I put on my headphones, and I listened to Led Zeppelin, and I cried. And I just tried to make sense out of this. And again, the old me right now has perspective, and I go, that was silly. But back then, devastating to me. And as I sat down there, my mind slowly started turning to when my dad was going to get home. And that was hard for me because my dad was my coach. What was I going to say to him? How was I going to say this to him? What would he say? Now, look, I knew my dad wasn't going to be like, what? You got cut? You're not a Carver? Get out of the house. I knew he wasn't going to say that, but I didn't want to disappoint him. I didn't want to let him down. And so right about the time I knew he'd get home, I made my way upstairs. And I sat down at the kitchen table. And the kitchen table in my house growing up, it faced the front door. And right to the left of the front door was this big picture window. And I sat there, and I kind of got myself composed. And I hadn't cried for a little bit. And I'd worked up this speech that I was going to tell my dad about how the coach, it was rigged. And they got players on there that were worse than me. And it was so stupid. And how much I probably shouldn't play on that team anyway, because who wants to be on the team that does that? And I concocted this whole story in my mind that I was going to use to justify this whole thing. And I remember those sitting there looking at that front door and seeing my dad's headlights pull in and the lights swing across that picture window. And all of a sudden that whole story just left me, and I just started crying again. I was so nervous about that. And I watched him walk across that picture window. He kind of looked in and he saw me sitting at the table, and just for a second, I could still see the look on his face. He got this little grin, and I knew that he felt like I did the night before, that this was in the bag, because I never failed at baseball. I never messed up a bit. I won. Every single time at baseball, I won. I was one of the best, always. And I could see him ready. He'd been probably thinking the whole day that he was going to come home. I made the team, and we might even go to McDonald's to celebrate, which for our family was a big deal back then, right? And so I see that face, and it just crushes me, and he opens the door, and he looks at me, and he sees me crying, and for a second, that face is happy, and then he sees me crying, and he gets that look on his face, and he goes, "What's wrong?" And he starts walking into the room, and I just kind of said, "Dad, I got cut." And he goes, "What do you mean he got cut?" And he was taking off his tie. And I said, "Dad, I don't know, I got cut." He goes, "Well, what happened?" I said, "I don't know, Dad." He goes, "Well, no, what happened?" I said, "Dad, I don't know. I talked to the coach. I told him my name. Every single time I saw him, I said my name. Every single coach, I said my name. And I ran, and I hustled, and I chased foul balls, and I never walked, and I always cheered, and I gave heart and effort every single time, Dad. And I said I had a good swing, and I dug the balls out of the dirt, and they said I hit a double, and I didn't make any mistakes, and I did everything right. And I don't know, Dad. I got cut." And I remember he kind of leaned over and put his hands on the table. He kind of looked down and kind of looked at me, and he said, "Okay, so now what are you going to do?" And I was like, "I got cut, Dad. There's nothing I can do." And I started to say this whole, and besides, other people got on the team, Dad, and he just stopped me. He goes, "I don't care about that." He goes, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "Dad, I got cut." He goes, "I got that, Kim. What are you going to do?" And I said, "Dad, I can't do anything else. I got cut." And he said, "Kim, I heard you. But now what are you going to do? Are you done with baseball? Are you just going to quit? Are you just going to walk away from this whole thing and blame it on this or that and find excuses and just never do it again? Is that what you're telling me, Kim? Because I want to make sure I understand if that's what you're telling me or not, Kim. So what are you going to do about it?" And I knew that if I said I got cut again, he might smack me. And so I started thinking, okay, do I want to give up on baseball? No. I don't. Okay, so if that matters to me, then what can I do? What can I do? And as I was sitting there for a second, and my dad was smart, he just let me sit there for a second. He could tell that my mindset was shifting. And a little string of an idea came to my mind, and I grabbed onto it. And I just said, "Hey, Dad, if the old me would say, the me today would say I was trying to control the controllable." And I said, "Dad, I know I can go to the coach tomorrow, and I can ask him if while the team's practicing outside, if I can use the indoor facilities," because they had like this little batting cage with a net where you could hit off a tee and stuff. Because, Utah winters, they would practice indoors sometimes. And I said, I can ask if while the team's practicing out on the field, if I can use the tee and hit upstairs in the indoor facilities, okay? And that will show him that I'm serious about getting better so I can be ready for next year's tryout. My dad said, "Okay, I think that sounds like a good idea." And so then we practiced what I was going to say to him. He had me practice with him what I was going to say to him, the coach, and I can still remember it to this day. I walked up to the coach the next morning, and he saw me coming, and he had this look on his face like, "Oh, crap, I was not looking forward to this. The Tasmanian devil who always speaks his name is coming over here, and I don't know what to do." And so I came up, I said, "Hey, coach," and he was like, "Hey, Kim, well, this," and he just started, I don't remember what he said. I listened to him for a second. I said, "Coach, it's okay. Can I ask you a question?" Because this is what I had practiced with my dad. I said, "It's okay, Coach. Can I ask you a question? Would you mind while the team's practicing outside, can I use the tee upstairs so I can practice hitting so I can be ready again for next year's tryout?" See, it's just kind of part of my vernacular right now. I practice it with him over and over again. And after I said that, the coach looked at me. And he goes, "Okay." I'm sure for him it was like an easy out. Right? He's like, "All right, this kid, whatever, he wants to do this, he'll stick with it for a couple days and whatever." But I didn't stick with it a couple days. I went up there that afternoon. My dad and I decided that every day I'd hit 300 balls off the tee, which is a lot of baseballs to hit off the tee. I'd hit 100 baseballs, placing the ball on the inside of the plate, basically, in the middle and on the outside, so I could practice hitting to all different parts of the field. And I wasn't up there with friends, and I wasn't up there with coaches. It was me, a bucket of balls, a tee, and a net. And I went up there every single day after school. While the team was practicing outside, I was up there hitting. When the season had ended, and a lot of those athletes were maybe into basketball or football or out kissing their girlfriend. I didn't have a girlfriend, so that wasn't an option for me. So I was upstairs hitting baseballs. every single day without fail, I was up there hitting baseballs. And after about 3 months, the coach started to talk to me. Because who was this kid that was up there all the time? It was like the ping of the bat was like this melody after school that was just kind of this constant soundtrack to the sounds of the school, because I was up there every day. Ding, 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 ding. And he got to know me a little bit, and he got to know a little bit of my story, and I got to tell him a little bit about where I came from and what had happened with me. And I was there every day. I remember 3 days into it, as I was hitting, all of a sudden my hands started to really hurt. And I stopped and I looked down, and right across the palms of my hands, the skin was splitting and it was bleeding. And the bat that I was holding onto was an old bat. We didn't have a lot of money, and so the grip, the leather wrap around the bat had fallen off a while ago, and we had just taken athletic tape and white tape and wrapped it around it, and it was like 100 grit sandpaper, what it feels like sometimes. And the repetition of me doing that was splitting my hands on that rough tape. And I remember looking at that and going and seeing the crimson stains on that bat and going, what am I doing? This is stupid. This is stupid. Okay. And you've never seen a kid more ready for tryouts than I was that next year when they came. My dad had told me during the course of that conversation something that I'll never forget during the course of that conversation that night that led to this decision. And I was thinking about it the tryouts right before they started. After I told him when he was asking me what I wanted, he told me something. He said, Kim, he goes, there's always going to be people in your life that are smarter than you, always people that are better positioned than you. He apologized that he couldn't be better politically connected, that we had just moved into the area and that he had to work so much he didn't have a chance to go smooth with people. But he told me that hard work was the great equalizer. And he said if I wanted to get something, I had to go after it myself. I had to go get it. I couldn't wait for it to be given to me because those kind of things weren't given to me. And so the night before the tryouts, I was thinking about that. I was thinking about all the hard work that I'd put into this. And I went out that next day for tryouts, and I was that tryout for the sophomore team, and I was so ready. I had a different perspective on it. I had paid the price. I was in probably the lowest time that I'd ever been in something that I wanted so bad, and I just fought, and I had fought, and I had fought, and I had fought, and I didn't have I had some positive inklings as I got to know the coach a little bit, but I still wasn't on the team. No one guaranteed me a spot. Nothing was happening, so I was out there fighting for my life. At least I felt that way when it came to baseball. And the first day of tryouts went well, and the second day of tryouts came, and I was out there, and I remember there was this foul ball that got hit. We were doing batting practice again. I was out fielding, and I was heart and effort, right, chasing this ball down. I went to go dive for it. I don't know why. It's just batting practice. I'm out there shagging baseballs. I went and dove for it, and I smashed myself into this fence. And the coach yelled at me, Carver, get over here. After I did that, and I kind of bounced up. I'm sure today I'd have some, in today's world, there would be some concussion protocol I would have to go through because I hit it that hard, but I was kind of woozy, and I was running over to him the best I could. And he leaned down at me, and he looked at me, and he said, hey, you're going to make the team. Just don't hurt yourself. And I remember looking at him, what? And I made him say it again to me. You're going to make the team. Just don't hurt yourself. And I went home that night, and I told my dad, and we kind of celebrate, but we didn't want to believe it. And so heart and effort, the third day of tryouts went, not anything, but that finally had that experience of going to the coach's office and seeing my name on that wall, on that piece of paper, that I'd made the team. I'd made the team. And that year I started my first game on the sophomore team. I played 2 games on the sophomore team. By my third game, I was on the JV team. I played 1 game in JV. And then from the rest of that time going forward, I actually played varsity. Okay, this kid who got cut the year before within 4 games was the starting first baseman for the varsity team. And I ended up getting that Letterman's jacket. And I'm going to put it on so you can see that still fits. Okay? And let me tell you about this Letterman's jacket that I wear now, you guys. The funny thing is after I got it, I realized pretty quickly that this has nothing to do with being a Carver. It doesn't. I still didn't get a girlfriend until my senior year. And even when I got a girlfriend, she didn't want to wear it. So all those cool stories that I thought you'd do with the Letterman's jacket, that never happened. And even today, 90% of the time, this jacket just sits in the closet. My wife sometimes will look at it and go, why do you still have that? And it's not because of the Letterman jacket anymore, but it's because of what this represents. When my dad taught me that hard work is a great equalizer. When my dad taught me that expecting that life would just hand you things that you want, that are of great value to you, that's just not how it works. That if you really want it, you've got to be committed enough to own it and to go after it and to keep fighting for it and fight and fight and fight and fight. And if you do that, that's how those things are won. That's how those things are earned for you. And I cannot tell you how many times in my life I've leaned on that, whether it's finding out my kids had disabilities, professionally, fighting through situations, trying to find whatever it happens to be, the ups and downs of life, of business, of whatever you want to say. I know that if it's worth fighting for, it's worth fighting for. If it's worth owning every bit of it, the good, the bad, the ups and the downs, all of that. And I want you guys to remember that. I want you guys to think through that. I want you guys to have that in your mind as you kind of go through this potluck. And I know I've been talking for way too long, and Audrey, you may never show this, and that's okay, because I warned you I was going to ramble a little bit. But I know you guys. I know so many of you, and I know your hearts. And I know your desires and what you want out of your business. And I'm here to tell you that it's there. It's there for the taking. But you've got to get your mind right. You've got to recommit yourself to those things to own all of your business. And you're going to get there. You're on the right path. You're doing the right things. You just have to keep going. You have to keep going with purpose. You have to keep going with that hitter's mindset, with coming out with things with belief and with strength. And if you will do that, I promise you, you're going to get where you want to go. And so don't get short-sighted on yourself. Don't get so myopic on the moment that you forget the long run of where you're trying to go. You got this, you guys. I'm grateful for the chance to have shared some of this with you. I hope, again, this wasn't too overly long, and hopefully it was a little bit helpful to you guys. I just appreciate you guys a lot, and I can't wait to be able to see you guys again soon, all right? So take care, guys. Have a good one. Bye now.